I took my wife to work. Now my boss is in love with her. Now I know what you're thinking. Every man thinks their wife is the most beautiful woman in the world. But trust me when I say, my wife is stunning. Anyway, with great beauty comes great attention. And let me tell you, the kind of attention she gets could make the most secure guy feel like he's holding on to a winning lottery ticket in a windstorm. There was this one time we were at a coffee shop, the kind of place where they write your name wrong on purpose for the gram. She just walks up to the counter, orders her usual, and bam! The barista is tripping over his own feet to give her the coffee on the house. "It's on me today," he said, winking like he's the first guy ever to come up with this move. I rolled my eyes so hard I saw my brain. And don't get me started on the grocery store. She's picking out avocados, right? And this guy comes up, pretending to be confused about which ones are ripe. "Could you help me?" he asks, batting his eyelashes like he's auditioning for a mascara commercial. Next thing I know, she's not only helped him pick out avocados but also got a discount from the manager for being such a delightful customer. I mean, come on. I'm lucky if I can get a self-checkout machine to acknowledge my existence. It's not just the little things, either. There was the time we went to a car dealership, just to browse. She was casually admiring a sleek sports car, the kind that's more expensive than our house, and the salesman practically tripped over his own feet to offer her a test drive. He glanced at me like I was the chauffeur who had mistakenly been allowed to sit in the front seat. By the end of the day, we walked out with a year's worth of free car washes. We didn't even buy anything. So, when the annual office Christmas party rolled around, I had my reservations about bringing my personal Aphrodite into an environment fueled by cheap wine and corporate ambitions. I mean, these events are notorious for awkward conversations and even more awkward dancing. Bringing her felt like walking into a lion's den with a stake strapped to my chest. But she wanted to go, excited to see where I worked, meet my colleagues, and frankly, show off a stunning dress she'd found for the occasion. How could I say no? Spoiler alert, I couldn't. I had this nagging feeling, though, like I was about to make a monumental mistake. Not because I didn't trust her or my coworkers, okay, maybe I didn't trust Phil from accounting, but because I knew the kind of attention she would attract. It was like willingly jumping into a shark tank covered in chum. I tried to brush off these feelings as we got ready, her looking like a goddess among mortals, me, well, trying not to look like I just crawled out of a laundry hamper. But as we left for the party, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was about to learn a lesson the hard way. "Are you ready for this?" I asked, trying to sound more confident than I felt. She smiled, that earth-shattering smile, and took my hand. "It'll be fine. What's the worst that could happen?" Famous last words, right? Little did I know, the night would unfold in ways I couldn't have imagined, marking the beginning of an evening that would be talked about in office lore for years to come. And not necessarily for the reasons one might hope. We arrived fashionably late, or so I thought. The moment we stepped in, it was as if we had walked onto the set of a peculiar sitcom where my wife was the leading lady, and I was, well, the forgettable extra. The transformation was instantaneous. Colleagues who barely nodded at me in the hallways were now flocking around us, or, more accurately, her. "Wow, you look stunning tonight," exclaimed Tom from marketing, his eyes nearly popping out of his skull. "Absolutely breathtaking," chimed in Jerry from sales, who I'm pretty sure had never used words with more than 2 syllables before. She handled it with grace, her laughter light and friendly, as she thanked them. I tried to mingle, but it was like trying to join a conversation in a foreign language. Eventually, I retreated to the safety of the buffet table, nursing a drink and watching the spectacle unfold. Just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, the boss made his grand entrance. He was the kind of guy who believed his own hype, a smooth talker with a charisma that could sell sand in the desert. Tonight, his target was clear. "Ah, the belle of the ball," he exclaimed, making a beeline towards us. Or her, to be exact. "I must say, you outshine the Christmas decorations." She laughed, a sound that seemed to draw more attention. "Thank you, that's very kind of you to say." The conversation that followed was something out of a flirtation manual, with the boss laying it on thick. Compliments about her dress, her laugh, her eyes, nothing was off limits. I watched, a lump forming in my throat, as she responded with polite laughter, not encouraging but not discouraging either. "Would you honor me with a dance?" he asked, extending his hand with the confidence of a man used to getting what he wants. She hesitated, looking over at me. I gave a tight-lipped smile, the kind that said, "I'm fine, but only because I have to be." As they danced, I could see him whispering in her ear, making her laugh. He was smooth, I'll give him that. He knew exactly what to say, when to touch her arm, when to pull her a bit closer. And she, well, she seemed to be enjoying the attention. Not in a flirtatious way, but in the way one enjoys the sun after days of rain. The night wore on, and with each passing hour, the boss made sure she was never without a drink in her hand. I tried to interject, to join their conversation, but it was like trying to break into a fortress with a toothpick. Finally, the party began to wind down, and it was time to leave. The ride home was silent at first, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Then I couldn't hold it in any longer. "Don't you think you were a bit too friendly with the boss tonight?" I blurted out, regretting the words as soon as they left my mouth. She turned to me, her brows furrowing. Too friendly? He's my boss, what did you expect me to do? Snub him? It's not about snubbing him, it's about boundaries. He was clearly interested in you, and you just laughed and danced with him. She sighed, a long, weary sigh. Look, I get it. It's not comfortable seeing someone flirt with your spouse. But think about it. If I had acted cold or distant, that could reflect badly on you. Do you really want to be on his bad side? I hadn't thought about it that way. In my mind, it was a simple matter of right and wrong, but the world, especially the corporate world, was rarely that black and white. But it's not just about work, is it? I pressed, my voice softer now. It felt like you enjoyed his attention. She looked out the window, the passing streetlights casting shadows on her face. Maybe I did, a little. It's nice to feel appreciated, to be seen. But it doesn't change how I feel about you. Can't you understand that? Her words hit me like a cold shower. Was I being too possessive? Too insecure? Or was it normal to feel this way when someone like the boss was clearly stepping over the line? The aftermath of the Christmas party hung over me like a cloud of smog, choking every rational thought with doubts and insecurities. So, when the boss summoned me for a meeting first thing Monday morning, my stomach was a tangle of knots. I imagined every scenario from being reprimanded for my wife's alleged flirtations to being outright fired for not being able to control the situation. I rehearsed apologies and defenses as I walked to his office, my palms sweaty and my heart racing. The secretary gave me a nod, her eyes hinting at a commiseration that did nothing to ease my nerves. Ah, come in, come in. The boss greeted me with a wide smile, the kind that precedes either very good news or very bad news. He gestured for me to take a seat, and I did, my mind racing with possibilities. I'll get straight to the point, he began, folding his hands on the desk. My heart skipped a beat. This was it, the moment of truth. Your wife, he said, and my heart sank. Here it comes. She's quite the charmer, isn't she? I haven't seen someone light up a room like that in years. Reminds me of my younger days. I blinked, taken aback. This was not the conversation I had braced myself for. Thank you? I managed, confusion lacing my voice. He laughed, a hearty sound that filled the room. No, thank you. It's not often we see such vibrancy at our events. But that's not why I called you here. He paused, as if for effect, and then continued, I believe she'd be a perfect fit for our team. We've been looking for someone to head our new community engagement project, and from what I've seen and heard, she has the charisma and the skills we need. My jaw must have hit the floor because he chuckled at my expression. Shocked? Don't be. I have a good eye for talent, and your wife, she's got it in spades. He went on to outline a very attractive offer, complete with a salary that made my eyes widen and benefits that sounded too good to be true. All the while, a pit formed in my stomach. It wasn't just the unexpected turn the meeting had taken, it was the realization that this would tie us even more closely to a man I was beginning to see as a rival, if not an outright adversary. I had planned to keep this meeting to myself, to somehow dissuade the boss from pursuing this any further without involving my wife. But fate, it seems, had other plans. Later that day, as I sat at my laptop, an email notification popped up. It was from the boss, addressed to me but asking about my wife's interest in the job offer. And, as luck would have it, my wife was right there, leaning over my shoulder, her eyes scanning the screen before I could click it away. What's this? She asked, her voice a mix of curiosity and excitement. Nothing, just work stuff. I tried to brush it off, but she was persistent. Work stuff that involves me? Her eyes were alight with a mixture of surprise and intrigue. Reluctantly, I explained the meeting, the job offer, and the boss's interest in her joining the team. Her reaction was immediate and glowing. Really? That sounds amazing. I've been looking for something like this, something meaningful. I watched her excitement grow, talking about the possibilities and what she could bring to the role. All the while, that pit in my stomach grew and hardened. This was my boss, the man who had shown a little too much interest in my wife at the party, and now he was offering her a job? It felt like we were being pulled into his orbit with no way out. But how could I deny her this chance? She was genuinely excited, and the job was a perfect fit for her skills and passion for community work. I wanted to support her, to be the encouraging partner she needed. Yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were playing into the boss's hands, that this was more about him than it was about her or the job. As she hugged me, thanking me for supporting her, all I could feel was the weight of the situation. How would this change our dynamic at work? At home? Would my boss see this as a way to keep us both under his thumb? The transition from being my wife to being the boss's new favorite employee was swift. At first, it was all about the excitement of a new role, the thrill of bringing fresh ideas to the table, and the satisfaction of being appreciated for her skills and charisma. But as days turned into weeks, the nature of the boss's attention began to shift, subtly at first, then unmistakably. Gifts started appearing on her desk, flowers, gourmet chocolates, even designer accessories, each accompanied by notes that treaded the fine line between professional admiration and personal affection. For your brilliant presentation, one would say, or to brighten your day as you brighten ours. Flattering, yes, but with an undercurrent that made me uneasy. My wife, ever the optimist, brushed off my concerns initially.